Hi.
Welcome to RiPLAY. In this video, there is a movie story from the Philippines released in 2024. This movie tells the story of a couple who helps a mysterious absent-minded girl who is stranded on the beach until finally the girl lives with these two couples. Many strange things are done by this girl, such as often carelessly changing clothes without closing the door. As a result, the couple's romantic relationship eventually became chaotic. Before continuing to the story, click the subscribe button so you don't miss the latest video updates from RiPLAY. The movie focuses on a married couple named Etna and Larry. Etna and Larry are a couple of fishermen who look for shells in the ocean every day. After getting the shells, they would clean them and sell them. After a few years of marriage, Larry and Etna apparently never got offspring. This also made Etna restless because she really wanted to have a child. Larry and Etna were an ideal couple. Before getting married, there were many women who tried to snatch Larry from him. Until finally Etna managed to win her husband's heart. One day after catching shells in the ocean, Etna and Larry saw someone stranded on the beach. She immediately ran and found out who the person was. At first her husband asked Etna to ignore it so they wouldn't get into trouble. But seeing the girl still alive, Etna felt sorry for her and immediately took the girl to her house. Once there, Etna cleaned the girl's wounds, and soon the girl woke up and cried. Etna asked the girl what her name was and where she came from. The girl confessed that her name was Ami. Seeing that Ami was sad, Etna tried to calm her down by offering her to stay with them for a while. I don't know if she was so happy, but in the morning when the couple was still asleep, Ami went so far as to dance on the beach. If you pay attention, the slightly strange Ami danced without wearing any underwear. As a thank you, Ami even cooked food for the couple's breakfast. Seeing Ami's appearance like that made Larry a little suspicious and asked his wife to ask Ami to return home immediately. But when he mentioned it, Ami suddenly cried and said that she had nowhere to go home. Seeing Ami crying again, Etna again felt compassion and offered Ami to live with them even though her husband did not agree. At first everything goes normally. Ami also helps them look for shells. But everything changes when one night Larry wakes up and sees Ami sleeping with her clothes off. Instead of being intrigued by what he saw, Larry immediately felt uncomfortable with Ami's presence. The next day, Etna takes Ami shopping for clothes to her best friend's shop. Seeing Etna, who came with another woman, made the shop owner feel suspicious and asked Etna to be careful with the girl. But at that time Etna didn't believe what her best friend said and felt that Ami was a good woman. While they were chatting, the police were seen standing guard around the shop. When she saw the police, Ami suddenly avoided them and hid as if she was hiding something. After returning from shopping, Ami immediately tried on the clothes they had just bought in her room without closing the door. But at the same time, Larry innocently passed in front of the room and saw Ami, who was not wearing any clothes. This made Larry pause for a moment. After that, Ami came out and showed the clothes to Etna. The Etna took the initiative to take a picture of Ami, but here Ami immediately refused. And it really seems that Ami is a very insecure person. The next day, the couple took Ami to look for shells in the ocean. But in the midst of the couple's warmth, it appears that Ami is jealous of Larry and Etna's friendship. Somehow it seems that Ami is starting to be attracted to Larry. In the evening, when Larry and Etna are having marital relations, their voices were heard up to Ami's ears, which made Ami silent. Even to the extent that when these two couples were having fun, Ami innocently entered Larry's room. Suddenly Larry and Etna were very surprised and confused them. Perplexed by Ami's strange behavior, Etna concluded that Ami might be suffering from a slight mental condition. She then took the initiative to invite Ami to see the outside world. Etna took Ami to the store, and when they arrived at the front of the store, there was a flirty woman named Alona who was with a flirty man named Greek. Etna also explains to Ami that Aluna used to seduce Larry and in the end Larry chose Etna. The next day, Ami took a bath outside the house and a lewd man named Greg tried to peek at her. Knowing that Ami was peeped by others, Larry warned Ami not to bathe outside anymore. In addition, he also asked Ami to always close the curtain when changing clothes as a warning that it needs to be done to avoid unwanted things. Not long after, Etna came and invited Ami to chat. And to this day, Etna still doesn't realize that Ami and her husband are attracted to each other. Etna said that she had no friends at all in that place. That's why Etna got close to Ami so easily. She seemed to hope that Ami could become a close friend and not betray her. Not long after, Etna went to her best friend's boutique. She asked Ami to take care of her husband and entrusted all the affairs of the house to Ami. After Etna left, Ami decided to take a shower. When he was cool pouring the body suddenly. They ended up having intercourse like husband and wife. While elsewhere, Etna had stopped by her best friend's clothing store. While at that time his best friend was having fun with his own employees. Seeing Etna, who came alone, the shop owner asked where Ami was. Hearing that Etna had left Ami with her husband worried her. She asked Etna to be careful, but Etna was still stubborn and said it wouldn't happen. And if it does, Larry will definitely come back with her. Fortunately, Etna here knew nothing about her husband's depraved behavior. In the evening, because it was Sunday night, Ami was told by Larry and Etna to go to the stall to buy drinks to fill the evening. When she arrived at the shop, she was approached by Greek. Greek intends to get acquainted with Ami nicely. But Ami flatly refused by saying that Greek was not her type. They just left. Ami, Larry and Etna finally enjoy the long night. Ami with her cunning mind deliberately poured drinks repeatedly to Etna. As a result, Etna became unconscious. Well, this is where Larry and Amos flirt with each other in front of Etna. They looked at each other and teased each other. When Amos sipped her last glass, Amos then led Larry's hand to touch her body. At first Larry complied with it all. But in the middle of the tense adventure, Larry realized and immediately pulled his hand back. Here Ami did not run out of ideas. She continued to seduce and implicitly invited Larry to leave Etna, who was unconscious. At first Larry seemed hesitant, but we all know that Larry is a normal man who is not free from sin and can also be mistaken. Eventually, he relented and followed Ami and left his wife. They immediately have sex like husband and wife. But again, in the middle of the incident, Larry regained consciousness and left us again. He immediately woke up his wife and invited her to rest in the room. The next day, Ami helped Larry fish in the sea while Etna was still asleep due to the effects of alcohol. These two people were flirting with each other again. Although their original goal was to look for shellfish, Larry, whose brain is depraved this time, decides to steer their boat to the middle of the ocean to find a quiet place. It turns out that he hesitated from yesterday because he thought there was a possibility that his wife might wake up suddenly. When they were in the middle of the ocean, they couldn't wait to take off their clothes. They finally did it. Well, after being satisfied with all the things they did, these two people went back to look for shells, and after that they sold them to the market. Back to Etna, who just woke up from her sleep. She was confused to find that the house was empty and there was no one there. But here Etna doesn't think strangely and looks for them at the market next to their house. She met Larry and Ami, and Etna asked why she was left at home. Larry replied that Erna was fast asleep from drinking all night. As a result, it was the two of them who searched for shells and kitchen needs together. The reason was accepted by Etna, and she immediately helped Ami to clean the shells. After that, Greek suddenly came and tried to seduce Ami. Ami, who felt uncomfortable, rejected Greek again. At the same time, Greek's girlfriend named Alona caught Greek and hit Ami by saying that Ami wanted to try to snatch Greek from Alona. Etna, who was previously upset with Alona because she had seduced her husband in the past, finally defended Ami. In the midst of a noisy situation, Larry came like a hero and immediately hit the Greek. Instead of calming down, this made the atmosphere uncontrollable because there was a fight between the couple. They also went home empty-handed because the name of the fight did not produce anything. As a result, Larry's face became bloody and bruised. Etna also tried to treat her husband. But here Larry instead focuses on advising us not to get close to or deal with the Greek again. This makes Etna feel a little jealous of Ami. But here she still tries to think positively. Over time Etna began to feel something strange about her husband. Larry began to rarely pay attention to her and even touch her. This also made Etna sad. She also thought the reason her husband hit Greek was because she felt that her husband had feelings for Ami. One night Etna woke up and did not see her husband beside her. Etna immediately got up and looked for her husband. But what a surprise when she saw her beloved husband making out with Ami. At first Etna, who couldn't believe it, just stood there stiffly because she saw it all. Until finally he went berserk and attacked Ami. Larry here instead tries to protect Ami from his wife's anger. Apparently everything his best friend said was true. The next day, these three people gathered at the dinner table. Ami, who is getting more and more ignorant, began to openly try to snatch Larry from Etna. Etna, who was still angry with her husband, was not friendly with Larry and Ami, and she didn't even want to be touched by Larry anymore. As a result, at night Larry also vented his desire to Ami, while Etna could only cry and remain silent. The next day, Ami was even more insolent. She even replaced Etna's role as wife and said that she had equal rights in the house. But Etna's experience in housewifery led her to try to warn Ami. She was very sure that Larry would definitely come back with her and dump Ami just like that. It turns out that Etna's guess was right. The longer Larry gets bored with Ami and he doesn't even want to touch her anymore. At the same time, Etna became pregnant, which made the couple feel happy. Because he didn't want Etna to be disappointed, Larry finally returned to his wife. Seeing this, Ami felt unacceptable. To vent her frustration, Ami met Greek, who was with his friends, and had fun with them. When Ami was unconscious, Greek and his friends finally started touching Ami together. After that incident, Ami returned home and saw Larry, who was making out with Etna. Ami, who couldn't help herself, interrupted them. This made Larry angry and immediately kicked Ami out. This made Ami angry with the husband and wife's treatment. Until finally Ami became reckless and did something she shouldn't have. After finishing off the two of them, Ami immediately left the place with blood-stained clothes like her condition the first time Larry and Etna found her. She began to live with a new identity. At the end of the movie, Ami is shown meeting her new man. And the movie ends. From this movie we can learn not to be too kind to others and not to bring anyone into our home life, because that person might destroy everything. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like, share and subscribe buttons and turn on the notification bell. Bye bye.